Typical of HP, we have a full agenda, and it's our goal to get everyone out of here early today. As a reminder, please limit individual conversations during the meeting. This ensures commission members and applicants can hear one another. Please remain quiet until you are called upon. When you speak at the podium, please state your name and address for the records. Before the commission votes on each item, I will ask if any members of the public wish to speak. Speakers are given 3 minutes to relay information to commission members. Please be thorough, but also mindful of your time. The agenda and documents for today's meeting are located on the PrimeGov site. If you're following along online, select Agenda on the right side of the Historic Preservation Commission meeting to see items being discussed. Written comments received more than 24 hours before today's meeting are posted online and were shared with commission members. At this point, new materials may not be shared with the commission, so if you brought handouts or examples with you, please keep them at your seat, as we cannot accept and review. I repeat, we cannot accept new information to review in today's meeting that was not submitted previously. Keith, will you please call roll?
Milner.
Present.
Jordan.
Present.
Gaines.
Present.
McBride.
Present.
Orr.
Present.
Whitley.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Procedures for today's meeting are noted in the agenda. For anyone unfamiliar with the process, please refer to the procedures section. There are 2 items we like to note specifically regarding this meeting process. These items involve certificates of appropriateness and appeals. Certificates of appropriateness. After an application is approved and the 10-day protest period has expired, the Historic Preservation Officer will mail the certificate of appropriateness to the applicant. City construction permits cannot be issued until the CA is issued. Please contact HP staff for final design review, inspection, or to withdraw items that will not be completed. For appeal to Board of Adjustments, any person aggrieved by a decision granting or denying a certificate of appropriateness may appeal to the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustments. All appeals shall be made within 10 days of the commission decision by filing a written notice of appeal with the clerk of the Board of Adjustments. Katie, any news from the Office of Historic Preservation?
Nothing to report other than I had shared previously that SHPO funding was not being released by the Office of Management and Budget for this year, and that office was at risk of having to close its doors. That funding has been released for 2025, so very excited for SHPO to continue their work and for us to be able to continue with the grant work that we do. That funding is still very much at risk for next year. So by all means, if that's something that's important to you, keep following that closely. But we're excited at least to have that relief for the moment. So,
Does SHPO have any staff left?
they have 4 right now.
Okay.
Several took early retirement. Some
Right.
people have taken other positions.
Right, okay.
And I don't know if they'll be able to hire people back and fill those spots.
But there
yeah,
are staff.
There are staff.
Good.
Okay, thank you. Acceptance of minutes. Have commissioners had a chance to review the minutes from the June 4th meeting?
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve, and we've got a second. Commissioners, please cast your votes. Okay, the minutes have been accepted. Katie, anything from code enforcement?
No items to report in particular. As always, if you see something on that report and have additional questions, you can reach out to staff or to the Action Center, or if something's not on that report and you think it should be there, reach out about that as well.
Okay, do we have any continuance announcements or requests?
No continuance announcements on the agenda, and we've had no new requests for continuances.
Okay. Okay, next up, public hearings. Anything with dilapidated structures?
No dilapidated structures this month. We do have 1 National Register nomination.
Okay. And tell us about that.
All right, so this is a National Register nomination at 3535 through 3555 Northwest 58th Street in Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on a resolution regarding a proposed National Register nomination for the Landmark Towers office building at that address. This is being nominated as part of an effort to obtain historic tax credits for rehabilitating those buildings and converting them into housing. The property is nominated under criteria A and C, which is history for community planning and development, and then also architecture. It is representative of the kind of post-war automobile-oriented move from downtown out to the arterials for commercial development in Oklahoma City, and that also happened in many other cities across the country. And it's also architecturally an excellent example of new formalism that is a modern interpretation of classic architectural styles. And this property, as I said, they're doing historic tax credits. They're also going through the rezoning process separate from this nomination to be able to convert to housing. Mike Mays from the State Historic Preservation Office is here if y'all have any questions for him. But we are looking for a motion and a vote to provide a recommendation to City Council, and then that goes on to the State Historic Preservation Office for the nomination.
Okay, commissioners, do we have any questions or comments? Okay.
Anybody else want to
Additions?
speak?
Yeah. We have is there anything you wish to say? Okay. Okay, do we have a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to recommend to City Council the nomination of the landmark towers.
Okay, we've got a recommendation. Do we have a second?
Second.
We've got a second. Commissioners, please cast your votes.
And before John and Rita leave, we have things for you to sign.
Okay. Okay, that item has been passed and will be recommended. Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, next up, we've got the consent docket, of which I believe we have 8 items.
This is a gigantic consent docket for us. Great job, everybody, having all your ducks in a row to get on that consent docket. The commission members can pull something or ask questions if you have anything that would like to be discussed individually. Otherwise, it would be one motion and vote for the docket.
I am on the consent docket, so I'm going to recuse myself, but I was noticing comments from the neighborhood on 301 Northwest 22nd Street, and it's something that I kind of can foresee coming up a lot in the future, so I thought maybe we could pull it and just get some comments on the record for it.
Okay, we've got a request to pull for individual discussion item 2, but I believe we can set that aside for a moment, and if there's any others that need individual comments or consideration. If not, I think we can take a motion on those items and then come back to item 2.
I'll make a motion to approve the remaining items on the consent docket.
Okay,
Second.
we've got a motion and a second to approve the remaining items on the consent docket. Commissioners, please cast your votes. Okay, items 1 and then 3 through 8 have been approved. Let's go back and visit item 2. Katie, do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
This is at 301 Northwest 22nd Street, Mesta Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application by Cynthia Archibald for certificate of appropriateness to 1, install a retaining wall elective, and 2, reinstall fence elective. This is a house that was built within the last 10 years or so. It's on the corner of Harvey and 22nd and backs up to commercial property and a surface parking lot on Northwest 23rd Street. The yard is clearly washing away along the side of the driveway there in the side yard. And so the owner has requested a retaining wall to stop that erosion, and then has also requested to put their existing 6-foot fence back on top of the retaining wall. This would make that fence 8 feet as measured from the sidewalk, even though it would be 6 feet within their yard. We did recommend approval because there are guidelines that support taller than typical fencing when you're adjacent to an incompatible use, like when you butt up to commercial, that sort of thing. But there were neighborhood comments expressing concern about the height of the fence.
Hey,
Yeah.
Commissioners, any questions on this one or comments?
I just wanted to have a comment on the record that I think we have allowed this a lot in the past in these transitional zones, and just kind of wanted to make it clear. We did get neighborhood comments, and it's nice to respond to those, but it feels really appropriate to grant an exception in this area, just since it is near a super busy intersection, and wouldn't give them a lot of privacy to only have a 4-foot tall fence on their side of the yard.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, and I've walked this sidewalk often, and there's often dirt and mud, and so I would like to see a better solution than having to track through the street and the mud. So, and again, it's abutting a very highly commercial area that I think it's a reasonable request.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, commissioners, do we have a motion on item 2?
Yeah, I will motion to approve HPCA 25-00063 with the specific findings noted in the staff report.
Second.
We've got a motion to approve. We've got a second. Commissioners, please cast your votes. Okay, that item number 2 has been approved. If you were on the consent docket, congratulations, your project is approved. You have the option to stick around for the remainder of the meeting or head out. And it won't hurt our feelings if you head out. Okay, cases for individual consideration. We have 5, correct? Because one has been withdrawn? Yes. Okay.
So yeah, we should announce that in case anyone was here to discuss that one. HPCA 25-00028 at 628 Northwest 16th Street has been withdrawn. So if you were here to talk about that one, it will not be discussed today. We do anticipate they'll come back at a later date with a new proposal. So.
Okay, so cases for individual consideration. We can get started with HPCA-25-00027 at 916 Northwest 38th Street. Katie, tell us about this project.
This is Crown Heights, Ward 2, consideration and possible action on application by Holly Hunt, Sam Gresham Architecture for Michael Purcell for certificate of appropriateness to remove paint from stone veneer, elective, 3, construct addition to rear of dwelling, elective, 4, construct porches at addition, elective, and 5, construct second story addition at the garage, elective. The commission has seen this twice now, so today is the last hearing for this. It needs to be either approved or denied. The applicant has provided some additional background information on surrounding properties with larger additions, with larger garages, 2-story garages. There have been some minor changes to the design overall, and I'll let the applicant talk you guys through those. Not a drastic change from what you've seen before. The remove paint from stone veneer, we've recommended for denial, and that's just something that they could come back at any time once they have documentation of how they would propose to do that, and we could potentially approve that administratively or bring it to the commission for your consideration. That's just not something that we can approve without having the information on the method to be used to remove the paint. On the other 2 items, I think what the concern comes down to for staff just remains that regardless of how we measure it, this addition is significantly over the square footage that the guidelines support. Staff feels like there could be more done to reduce the size, to increase the kind of secondary nature of the addition as being secondary to the primary, to the historic dwelling. And we have recommended denial on the garage addition. Kind of similarly, the proposed alteration to the existing garage exceeds the square footage that's allowed if we were considering this as new construction. Since it is a kind of remodel of the garage, it's new cladding, it's adding a second story, and that we remain concerned about various elements of the design, the roof form, compatibility with, and comparability to what's there now and to the historic primary dwelling. So that's the staff recommendation that is in the staff report, and you do have some favorable letters of support from the neighborhood association and from other surrounding neighbors, and the applicant can give you more information about what's changed.
Okay, the applicant is present.
Hello,
Okay,
everyone.
And please state your name and address for the record.
Holly Hunt, 400 Northwest 23rd Street.
Okay.
I'm glad we're here. I didn't think it would take all 3 meetings, but here we are. The changes to the drawings include me stepping in that second floor, 6 inches on both sides, so that it will actually step in off of that main, what we're calling that historic addition off the rear. I certainly think that it would be unfair not to consider that as part of the house's not only historic depth, but the square footage. We've seen that over and over and over in this district, where people are allowed to add that 750 beyond what's currently there. The staff feels like we're rebuilding this. It desperately needs rebuilt. This back area has some water issues. We can repair those as part of this project, but we do intend to maintain that square footage, and even, you can see on the site or on my elevations, we'll maintain that little parapet that's existing as a way to distinguish that this was a part of that original historic home. And then our addition just kind of sits onto, so we put 2 rooms above that existing upper floor, or that existing one-story element, and then there's just 2 rooms into the backyard, a total of 18 feet into the back. On the shorter side, of course, since the back wall, it makes a jog, 18 feet on this side, 13 on this side, increasing the footprint by only 500 square feet. The last batch of drawings you saw, it was 520, so I have actually reduced the entire thing, okay, as much as possible without just taking out a whole room and making it no longer, the configuration no longer makes sense if it gets to a certain if it gets any smaller than what I've shown. And, I wrote a little note here about that. I think our unique circumstance here is that it's not visible from the street. We have 2 huge additions on either side of us. We're still not even approaching the depth of either of those homes. The green space is minutely increased because a lot of this, again, is we're adding a second floor over an existing 1-story. So the impact on the site is very minimal. And I think that that's noteworthy. Also, just, the massing and everything, to me, it's not only secondary by stepping in and lowering that roof pitch and also lowering it beneath the existing upper floor roof. These are all ways that we're trying to clearly define this as an addition. So, beyond that, my thinking is that, and then the neighborhood survey, I want to bring that up, because I was shocked to find that there are many homes on this street and in this block. I kind of went to either street and tried to look at as many properties as I could that are adjacent to them. And there are many homes over 3,000 square feet. We'll end with just a little over 3,300 square feet overall, and that sits very, very nicely in the average of home sizes in this area. The homeowners are here today, and Michael Purcell has actually prepared a small statement. I'd like him to come up and read that, and then we can kind of talk more about it, and we can circle back to the garage at the end. Thank you.
Okay, if you'd please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Michael Purcell, 2200 Bellevue Terrace right now, but hopefully 916 Northwest 38th Street in the near future. This is my wife, Claire.
Hi, Claire Robison, 2210 Bellevue Terrace.
Okay, thank you.
We also have 2 small children that are not here today, but they wanted to come too. We come before this committee in hopes that you will approve our request to update and care for this historic home. My wife and I are 5th generation Oklahomans, and we've decided to stay here for a 6th generation and raise our kids here. And we want to support the generations before here that have lived here in this beautiful home. And it's important to us to be good caretakers of this home. We want to raise our children here in this specific neighborhood because of how special the people are here. The proximity of how close the house is to our churches and our school, particularly, and how our families' histories are linked here to this specific area in Oklahoma City. As Holly's mentioned, we are a growing family, and we've looked for a long time for a house that meets our specific needs. So we hope that you grant this request to modernize this property to help this house make it as a home for us. Thank you so much for your consideration in this matter. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, but thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, what questions or comments do we have on this application for the applicant?
Can we start on the easy one, on the removal of the paint?
That's fine,
Yes, I
guys.
would love to start on that one.
We'll just work that out with staff, because
Okay.
we still haven't, like, knocked heads together on
I would
that.
love to see the paint removed, just want to
Yeah.
know that it can be done.
I also
Yes.
am curious as
So,
can be,
okay.
because a lot of the stone on this block is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel, obviously, y'all did not paint that.
No.
You know, something has to happen with it. So
Yeah.
I think we will get there as long as
Yeah.
we see that y'all are trying,
Of
something,
course,
whether it
yeah.
works or not, there will be a solution there.
Thank you.
Great, you want to keep talking about that one?
You know, I know last time Commissioner Remy was in support, and he stated that about extending into the yard, only, 18 feet on one side, 13 on the other, and the increase of coverage only being 500 square foot, the increase to the footprint. So again, we feel like this is quite modest for the area.
Holly, on your survey, I just want to get clarity on the record,
Sure.
and you may or may not know. These houses where you've highlighted, that some are 3,000, some are 3,500, some are 4,000, are those, original sizes don't really matter. Yes, in the scheme of, okay, whether it's appropriate or not, is something going to stick out like a sore thumb? Yes, but do you have any information as to whether any of these are this size because they've received a permit from us to allow them to be bigger, or were they originally built this way, or were they added onto prior
Well, as you
HB?
can imagine, they vary greatly.
Yeah.
But no, most of the larger homes have had CAs pulled. Specifically, the one right next door in 2011
remember
was
that one.
granted a 1,100 square foot addition. I think that is the precedent set. We talk all the time about the fear of setting a precedence, which I still don't think is a fear because it's a case-by-case thing. But still, this area has been allowed to have larger additions, and I think that shows in those numbers.
So I think, there's a couple of areas in which I'm struggling, and I think it really just comes down to the way it's being presented and the way it's being requested. I don't disagree with you that it is a case by case. However, we have 100 other people who come up here and say the precedent was set by XYZ. So we do have to be pretty careful, especially since,
Yeah.
we have minutes and recordings and everything's
I'm doing that
accessible.
now, yeah.
So we want to be really thorough. But, I feel from the first time it was presented, I can't speak for everybody else, but I know that one thing I kept saying was like, I would rather see this come back as just, hey, I want a really big addition, here's the unique circumstance, here's why, instead of kind of this complication of, well, we think the addition that was built was this, this era, and whether that is or is not historic. If you want to pursue that argument, as to whether that should be considered part of the original structure at this point or not, I could get on board with that too. I just feel like we're kind of not really making a case in either direction, and I think for us moving forward, that's a big piece of it for me, that it is a really big departure.
Even though I've stepped in the addition from that existing.
Well, it's just still over the allowable in
Right.
the guidelines, and so I would like to personally see if we're going to approve it, a unique circumstance because it's a big addition, or because we have factual evidence of the age of this, and here's an example of when we've done it before. The other thing is just that attic space. We all know, like, we can tap into that attic space and finish it. And I would like to see it just clear, just like, what is your ask? How much space do you want? Let's defend that ask, versus us feeling like we're kind of like scraping by and avoiding the rules by allowing you to have an attic that's probably going to be finished at some point.
No, that's not the intent at all. There's no
Well, maybe
basement or
not
attic
theirs,
in
but
this house.
but we are allowing for things that are outside. If we go forward with this, we would be allowing for things that are not identified within the guidelines, and we do that often based on all sorts of factors. I just would like clarity. Like, I don't want to make a decision just out of pressure and confusion. I'd like to see it defended properly one way or the
We've
other.
been working on for 3 months, and I have taken your feedback each time and modified the drawings. I've reduced it in size. I'm trying my best to kind of fit in with all of this. And to me, what I heard last month resounding was it's one or the other. And that's why we went with, okay, then let's maintain that one-story element that is historic, that was in place at the time of designation of this district. We do know that. So sometime between 1955 and 1978, this thing was built. And I have a good feeling it was in the 60s, just based on some finishes that were found in that.
And you could be
one-story.
right. I think for us, we need more than a good feeling. Like,
Well,
for me, I can't
that's
speak
why
for
I
everybody.
stepped
For-
it in. That's why I'm keeping that one
But
story
it is
flat
still
roof.
bigger. So I mean, just for us to give.
Yeah, but
you know,
bigger additions are allowed in this area, and they have been. You know, there is a precedence for that. So that's where we're at. We feel like it's not fair to allow other people to do it. And not
I
these
don't think it's about that.
homeowners.
I just think we need something more than it's not fair and we think. You know what I mean?
I've given you more than I think. I mean, I
I mean in terms of,
drawn and
like-
detailed everything according to this feedback, and we feel like, you know, we're doing our part to try to make this work. But at the end of the day, it is a very modest house, and it doesn't function well for a modern family.
I have a question, and it's
Yes.
more towards people that have more the architectural side of it. So I actually can be swayed by the fact that if an addition existed prior to the designation of the district, that we could apply the addition to, you know, the existing point when the guidelines were put in place. But I really very much disagreed last time when it came through. It felt like we were trying to get it both ways, like, you know, as we've discussed. So I was going to ask Caitlin specifically, do you feel like currently, as the drawings came back, that it distinguishes between effectively the three eras?
I think that, yeah, this is the best version that's come through so far. I think the stepping it in, the change in material, I think that helps distinguish from the old and the new. You know, there's probably one or two things I would personally do different as a designer, but like for what the family needs for their space and how we're trying to meld everything together. I wouldn't have any problem moving this through because I do also agree that I think the newer edition is older than 50 years, which would make it historic. So I can be swayed that way. I don't have a problem with it. The neighborhood seems in support of it. So I think it's maybe a little bit of a unique circumstance because of the age of that edition. But you know, if there are others here to speak on it from the neighborhood, I think we should hear from them.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear, I don't really have necessarily a problem. I just want us to be able to look back at this and say,
you want a
like,
clear
here is
argument
why
one way or
we
the other.
said we could or could not do this.
I think we might be about to get one.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't here last month, but from the first month that it was here, it definitely, I see great improvement. So I don't know what the conversation was last month, but I mean, it definitely makes me more
David had a lot of
comfortable.
input.
Yeah. So.
Hi there. Well, after the last meeting,
Can you state your name and
oh, I'm
address?
so sorry.
It's all right.
Betsy
It's all right.
Brenstetter, 604 Northwest 41st Street. I am on the HP committee for Crown Heights, and we are really trying to get more active, you know, in our neighborhood changes, just to make sure we're on point. But anyway, after that, the last meeting, I was fortunate enough to hear the last meeting. I was here for another case. And I think one of the things, and I went through all of the documentation, we went and spent time with Holly and our new neighbors, and we feel really strongly, we bounced it all around, but we feel very strongly that because this addition has minimal visible impact, the compatibility of the new work that's being done, as Caitlin mentioned, is much, much better for the house, for the neighborhood. The size is it's going to be bigger than what is actually allowed regardless of whether those additions are historic or not. It also does not, and I don't know if you've had the opportunity to stand in the backyard, the surrounding houses are quite a bit larger, and they do close in on that backyard. And it's not going to make it seem any smaller if this addition is built. And also they're not taking away very much more of the green space, so the runoff is going to be minimum. Anyway, so we feel like we'd love to see you approve this for these neighbors so that they could move in.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, commissioners, any other questions or comments for the applicant?
Should we talk about the garage and then we can do motions at the end while you guys are thinking on that, or how would you?
I'm sure they would love to talk about the garage.
Okay. So again, this existing garage is not as the historic original garage. It was built later and is awkward and doesn't really work. Our goal here is just to enclose that little hallway and put a gabled roof on it so it matches the architecture of the surrounding buildings. And in doing so, we'll create an attic space that we will use as a half story. We've met the criteria of a half story above this garage, and I have shown you in the neighborhood survey where we have many half-story garage, 1.5-story garages and 2-story garages. So I feel that this is not only an improvement to an otherwise bulky and non-contributing structure, but just to make it match the other garages in the area. Also very minimally visible from the front. Sorry, go ahead. Now I can hear you.
Was that garage, do you think it was built the same time as that addition was?
Probably.
'Cause it looks like it's 70s.
Yeah, and on this west wall, it is an actual CMU wall, which we'll be maintaining. I noticed that they said something about fire, which, you know, luckily the neighbor on that side, their garage is on the other side of their property too, so there's no, their actual addition almost touches our garage though, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, that is a CMU wall. Obviously, we're going to clad it with some siding so that everything will match. And of course, I'm sorry, I don't even know why it said wood composite shutters. We'll do wood shutters. That's absolutely fine. And that shouldn't have been, that note shouldn't have been in there. But yeah, wood shutters, again, just to match what we have on the upper floor of the main front. That's our goal here, is just to kind of make this garage fit.
So is it, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I'm okay with the garage improvement because I think it matches the neighborhood better, and I think this garage seems to be a mistake that was made.
Yes, I agree.
And for clarification, it's a true 2-story garage or a 1.5?
1.5.
Okay.
Yeah. So the distinction, you know, is it can't be higher than 3 feet vertical from the floor to the top of the wall. So I'm only 2 feet.
Okay.
And then it has to be no more than 2/3 of the floor below. And we have done that as well.
Katie, just for clarity, because I remember talking about this the first month, is there anything in the guidelines about that as relevant to the proportions of a shed dormer? Because, I mean, shed dormers can be like 95% of the width of something and still be called a dormer. So I just was curious, like.
The guidelines don't talk about shed dormers in particular, and as Holly said, it just comes down to there's a percentage of the floor area that if you go, there's a certain percentage of the floor area that can be usable space.
Right.
And if you add so many dormers on that now the whole floor area is usable, then you're now considered a 2-story garage.
Okay.
Yeah.
But our square footage is below that 2/3, so that matters.
Well, I know this one has been a difficult one, and I know the challenges a homeowner have had in trying to make this one. I think that the houses on each side of it, I've kind of had a concern with looking at the massing issue because those two houses are so massive that I don't think you're going to reduce it. So, I mean, I appreciate all the work you've done because I know you have come back, and I know the homeowners, it's put them out months. So. I'm good with the proposal, and I appreciate your work that you've done in trying to address our concerns.
Thank you so much.
Let me ask, do we have
You have a
any other comments from citizens on this item?
I do want to thank you, Holly, for putting the side-by-sides of the helps, like things.
I know, you weren't here last
I
month,
know,
but
I
was
thanked her
like,
for that last mess, so
Caitlin,
thank
I
you,
was
that's so helpful.
like, you're so genius. I mean, that was so genius.
Oh, we might have him.
Oh, of course.
Elaine Hardwick, 909 Northwest 39th. And I'm just here for support. I mean, I went with John and Betsy to go over all this. I'm not an architect. I've lived in the neighborhood since 1980. I mean, this house is, it's not a train wreck, but it's just, it's a lot to work with. And, I mean, just that previous picture, you see all the water on the driveway and the house to the east of it. It's a lot. And when we spent over an hour going through everything that staff had recommended or, had an issue with, and went back through and, I just want this sweet family to live in our neighborhood. And I just hope that, you all approved my next door neighbor, a big addition, a garage, a lot. They just got through roofing, yay. But, and they had, to come back, and I spoke with them too. It's just, in these days and times, young families that want to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars to make this their forever home, I just, I hope you all see that they haven't left one detail untouched as far as going forward for this to be their forever home. And it's a hot mess. There's more wires on the back of that house than I have ever seen in my life. So anyway, that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
So guys, just going through this, if we want to make a motion to approve, which it sounds like everybody's moving forward, moving in that direction, except for maybe the paint removal. There are a lot of specific findings. Katie, since y'all have recommended denial, if everybody was moving towards an approval, what do we do with, there's like 20 of them.
So I think
There's 23 of them.
I would
actually.
I would go ahead and make a motion for each one separately, just so you can kind of whittle down those findings. Several unique circumstances have been discussed and identified. It would be great if those unique circumstances could be included in the motion. And then, if it was me, I would just go through those findings and kind of say, include findings, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and strike this finding, or, and it's okay if that is kind of like a laborious process here for a minute. You don't have to just spontaneously, put forth beautiful language.
I also submitted to staff like a Word document, just like on letterhead, that had a lot of unique circumstance points. I know you also have to do your specific findings, but if that helps.
Could we just adopt Holly's specific findings?
Some you'll have to.
You have to call them out as part of your motion.
And then what do we do with the paint, since you're basically
I think we have to deny it.
just tonight? Okay.
Let's go ahead and do that one first. Just get it out of the way.
I was going to call dibs on that one.
All you, man.
Okay, I'd like to move on HPCA-25-00027 to deny item 2, remove paint from stone veneer with prejudice.
Okay, we've got a motion to
Second.
deny. Do we have a second? We've got a second. Okay, commissioners, please cast your votes. Okay, that item has been denied with prejudice. Okay, the other items in here.
I did my work.
So in looking at the findings, I think you could go with just the standard recommendation of approval that says meets applicable standards and guidelines as laid out in the municipal code, and you don't have that recommend, but just say, with this, standard findings for a motion to approve with the unique circumstances that, and articulate those unique circumstances. I honestly wouldn't try to incorporate the findings that are in the staff report, because there's nothing there that's supportive of what's proposed.
Okay, so one by one, I will make a motion to approve item 3, HPCA 2500027, with the applicable findings in the staff report and the unique circumstances that it's minimally visual, it's architecturally compatible according to the guidelines, it contextually fits within the block and the neighborhood, and that it minimally affects the green space.
Do you want that to go ahead and include 4 construct porches, since those are really part of the addition?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any more that I wanted to include?
And I would say the unique circumstance that, possibly that the existing addition is considered historic. Maybe?
Yes.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve with conditions.
Second.
Do we have a second? We've got a second. Commissioners, please cast your vote. Okay, those items have passed.
Anybody want to try the next one?
You're on a roll.
Let me get on to the next one. Okay, number 4. Let's see.
You incorporated 4.
Yeah,
It was
so yours
just
is a
counted
5.
just the garage.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. I was like, I could track. Yes, 5. So I'll make a motion to approve HPCA 2500027 with the applicable findings in the staff reports. I don't know, the unique circumstance that it is not.
Within the guidelines.
Yeah.
First.
It's not a historic garage.
Garage, yeah, it's not historically compatible, and any other unique circumstances that the 1.5 stories are compatible within the
guidelines.
neighborhood.
It's been proven to
Yeah.
be a 1.5 story. I mean, I don't think we need a unique circumstance for a 1.5 story, do we? I think it's just the expanded footprint.
I second.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve with conditions and a second. Commissioners, please cast your votes. Okay, that item has been approved with conditions. Okay, congratulations. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have HPCA-25-00060 at 615 Northwest 41st Street. Katie, tell us about this project.
This is Crown Heights Ward 2, consideration and possible action on application by Klaus Ryman Philip Architect PLLC for Collins Peck for certificate of appropriateness to item 4, demolish garage elective, and item 5, construct garage elective. The commission reviewed and approved an addition at this property previously, but the garage demo and construction were continued. The applicant has made some changes to the proposed design of the garage in response to comments from both the commission and from a neighbor that asked for exterior stairs to be moved, things like that were potentially impacting their property. So those changes have been made. Staff has recommended another continuance. The primary concern is simply that we have a presumed historic garage here with a low horizontal, kind of wide hipped roof. We're going to a more vertical, long and narrow gable roof, and we don't feel that this is checking the box of approximating the form and massing and characteristics of the historic garage. That's it.
Okay, we've got the applicant present. Please state
Yes.
your name and address for the record.
Klaus Ryman Philip, 2801 North Hudson.
Okay, thank you. Okay, talk to us about the project.
Yeah, so I wasn't here for the last hearing. My client was here, I was out of town. So, but I've watched, the hearing video from the last one and spoken with the client and staff and made revisions as Katie has outlined. So yeah, I think one of the big concerns was the exterior stairs on the back. I think there was a window or a door that we had on the back that the neighbor was concerned with as well. So we've made those changes. We've actually been able to make those changes without increasing the footprint of the garage. We basically just found a way to move the stairs inside. And, we also lowered the roof a little bit more. Really the intention for, well, the garage originally needed to be demolished anyways. It was really beyond repair. But beyond that, it was really not that functional of a garage for them. And my client is a contractor, he's got a big truck, and they've also got a big SUV, they've got a family. And so we wanted to design a garage that they could actually use as a garage, but additionally, he has tools and different things that he needs to store that you might normally keep in a garage. So, instead of increasing the size of the garage more and more, we really intended to keep the footprint as minimal as possible and basically create a loft above the garage to store, all those kind of things. So since it's a loft, it's not a living space, we lowered the roof a little bit more, so it kind of shrunk the usable space in the loft. He felt he still had enough room to work within that, and that also kind of informed the gable shape of the roof, which, we felt, you see a lot of garages that, it's beyond repair, it's approved to be demolished, then the replacement doesn't exactly match the original garage. But we felt, kind of big picture, that this garage kind of complemented the house in its form and design, but it was still clearly secondary, especially lowering the roof a little bit. We also separated the garage door into two separate overhead doors to give it a little bit more texture. And we would like to keep I think there's some comment about the window facing south, but we would like to keep that window as well. I think that also kind of makes that gable feel not as, just not a solid wall of siding, really. So anyway, that's kind of our approach or considerations, but would love to hear your feedback on it.
Thank you. Commissioners, what questions do we have for the applicant?
I have two really specific questions. First of all, I agree with you that I think, it seemed like you took the feedback from last month from the neighbor too and made the right changes. But do we know if that garage that exists was built, I'm definitely not arguing that it's historic, but do we know if it was built at the same time as the house, or if this house has received any substantial architectural changes? It just seems, the garage seems really out of sync with the house. The roof line of the garage seems not that garage, but definitely not that garage. But the garage as it exists actually is the thing that feels a little out of sync as we're looking at it. And I was really just curious if it was built at the same time as the house.
I'm actually not 100% sure. I don't know.
I think it looks pretty typical of a lot of garages we see in Crown Heights that have kind of the two garage bays plus a quarters on the side.
I don't disagree, just not necessarily with this. This house looks a little newer than I typically associate that style of garage with. And I was curious if they were, obviously the garage wasn't built first, but I was more curious if the house had ever been
It is odd because the house has been honestly maintained pretty well, and for its age, it looks really nice. And then the garage is, kind of falling over, which I think, that the garages weren't built to the same standards. And we see this over and over again, and I think that's why you see so many garage demolition applications, because, the walls were just framed basically on the ground. The slab was pretty even with the grade, so you'd have water damage. So I think a lot of times garages are almost like not an afterthought. Obviously, they wanted a garage, but it just wasn't built to the same standards.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a little bit of a lifestyle or life cycle with those. My other question was just the motivation for leaving, and I don't have the rear photos in front of me. I could probably pull those up, but just leaving that 10 feet at the rear of the property, bumping the garage forward versus backwards. It just seems kind of like an awkward amount of space to leave unless there's a motivation there.
Yeah, for sure. I think he felt that, his kids like to play sports and kick a soccer ball around, and the original garage was pushed way back, and you just had all this paving. It was like a sea of paving in front of it, and he felt that that was more paving than he needed. We're also kind of cognizant of keeping the overall lot coverage at, or this, very similar to what it was previously. So one way that we achieved this is by moving that garage up. We kind of took away some of that paving in front of the garage, and it gave him a little bit more space behind there. He also had like a generator that he has already installed that's existing.
Okay.
And he wanted to get it behind the garage, and so there's some mechanical stuff he wanted to do, but he really just wanted some more space.
Is there easement at the lot line back there?
On the what?
Behind the garage, is there an easement there?
Oh, an easement?
That would keep you from,
That is, no, I don't think there was. I mean, I think, I assume actually there was an alley at some point, I'm sure. So maybe there's a 10-foot easement. It would have been 20-foot alley.
yeah, I
probably,
assumed maybe
so.
like a utility easement or something
Yeah.
back there.
There might be, but that's not necessarily our motivation for moving it. But I appreciate, that'd be good justification for it.
Might verify that,
Yeah.
but.
Hey, commissioners, any other questions for the applicant or comments?
No, I would certainly, I understand the motivation to demo it. It looks like, it looks like it is going to be a permanent issue with the way it's graded, and don't see that being feasible to really salvage in any meaningful way, but I know there were some
Yeah, essentially, we
staff
just wanted to replace it
findings.
with, a simple garage that, complemented the house and kind of served its purpose as a garage. I don't know, yeah.
Katie, how much over are we in square footage on the garage? Is that further up?
The,
Okay, 611 square feet. Sorry, I just found it.
good job, yeah, I couldn't scroll to it to find it. So 5% of the site would be 432 square feet, or they can go to 450, whichever is larger, which would be the 450. The existing garage is already 544. They're increasing from the existing footprint by 68 square feet.
And is that was to move the staircase inside?
We actually, no, that was the same footprint as last time. We actually didn't increase it to move the stairs.
Okay.
We actually ate into
You just ate space with
Yeah,
the stairs inside. Got it.
I don't know if it's a justification or not.
It's
I
like
know that
almost
we
a
don't-
necessary evil if you're having, if you're going for the 2-story, the stairs have to go somewhere, so.
Yeah, and we still want to, he wants to use it for his car still too. So it's like, we got to leave enough room inside for his 2 vehicles.
Yeah.
And a way to get up if we don't have the exterior stairs. And yeah, I don't know if it's a justification or if we can consider it at all, but, there are a lot of other garages on the street that have been either rebuilt or existing that are, quite a bit larger as well. So I don't think it's, personally, I don't feel like it's out of scale, A, with a house or with other garages you see in the neighborhood. It's pretty, it's pretty far back. Even though we moved it forward, it's still pretty far back on the site.
Yeah, the total height is, what, 19 feet?
Yeah, we did lower that, I think, like 1.5 feet or something from what we had the first go-around.
I guess
last
it's
month.
20 on one
22
side.
to
but-
19.
22?
To 19.
It is 19'3" to
Oh,
the
I
peak
see what
of the
you're saying.
roof, to
Yeah.
the grade, to the east, and then it's 20 foot 7 inches to the paving, because the yard kind of steps up a little bit. There's like an existing retaining wall on that.
Any further comments, anybody?
I'm not bothered by the 68 square feet, and I think the applicant did a good job of taking into consideration our comments from last month. I know the gable end is probably the biggest concern with staff, but I still think it feels pretty secondary to the main structure, and I can get on board with it.
Katie, if we were to move forward with a motion to approve, I know we need a unique circumstance for that size, would we be able to use a unique circumstance that as 1.5-story garages are allowable in this district, the unique circumstances that the staircase has been moved aside?
And it was already a bigger garage in the first place.
I mean,
But it's
I don't
increasing
think
still.
you actually need a unique circumstance.
Okay.
The guideline says this size is allowed and the commission may consider other factors. So you could add a finding to say that
I mean, if we don't need one, it certainly
Right,
doesn't need to be
yeah.
made more complicated just for
Right,
my
yeah.
benefit. I just thought we did.
Let me ask, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak on this item?
I'm Betsy Brunstetter, 604 Northwest 42nd Street.
Thank you.
I live across the street from this particular house. I'm the person that, if you get a letter about a garage, it's usually coming from me because Crown Heights does not have sidewalks, and they have, you have to, queue up, I guess, in a lot of circumstances if you can't fit both your cars in the garage. And so I am all for the extra 58 square feet for this garage. And also, and this has nothing to do, I think the closest design is great, but it is so random in Crown Heights as to the design of the garages, because my house has a front-facing roof that is a gable roof, and my garage was a front-facing gable. And I replaced it. Katie and I had a long discussion about it. I replaced the garage, and it looks very similar, a bit bigger than the old one. But in this case, so many garages are exactly the same configuration that has been drawn for this project. Anyway, so I would support it.
Thank you. Okay, any other members of the public wish to speak on this? Okay, there being none, commissioners, any last questions or comments, or do we have any motions for these items?
I will make a motion if you guys are ready for one.
Go for it.
Okay. Regarding HPCA 25-00060, items, sorry, let me make sure I have them all.
I think it's 2.
Items 4 and 5.
I think you have to take one.
Oh, I have to do a demo by itself, don't I?
Yep.
Okay. I motion to approve item 4 to demo the garage. Do I need a unique circumstance there since it's recommended for denial?
It's, the findings actually are, it's recommended for continuance, and the findings, I would say, are mildly supportive of demo, so you can just use the findings in the
Okay,
staff report.
with the specific findings noted in the staff report.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve item 4. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a second. Commissioners, please cast your votes. Okay, that item has been approved. Do we have a motion on item 5?
I motion to approve item 5 for HPCA 25-00060 with the specific findings noted in the staff report, I suppose.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve item 5. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a second. Commissioners, please cast your votes. Okay, that item has been approved.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have HPCA-25-00069 at 621 Northwest 18th Street.
Okay, I am recusing myself on this one. I'll be back.
This is Mesta Park, Ward 6, consideration and possible action on application by Fallon Brooks Magnus, Jolly Bird Design, for Eden Moore for certificate of appropriateness to 1, construct new garage elective. This is the first time the commission has seen this application, although we did have a previous application with a different homeowner for a similar proposal to build a new garage. The historic garage is no longer on the site. That was previously demolished. And we did So this is to construct a two-story garage. The staff report notes that we, at this time, know that the historic garage was one story. We don't have evidence to support going from a one-story to a two-story, and that I believe the garage increases in size beyond what the guidelines support as well. So we did recommend a continuance.
Okay, is the applicant present?
Yes, Fallon Brooks Magnus, Jolly Bird Design, 733 Northwest 22nd, representing the applicant.
Thank you. Tell us about the project.
Okay, so you guys have seen this before. When we came before, which was November of 2023, we had a pretty egregious two-story garage, full height on the second floor. I think it was a 9-foot plate. I think the total was like 27 feet in height. There's a pretty significant, it's hard to see in this photo, but there's a pretty significant drop in elevation from the top of that driveway to the alley. And so the justification that we had before, and this, I went back and watched the hearing, and all the commissioners were actually pretty supportive of it. Katie mentioned that we could use the slope of the site as its own special circumstance for this. We understand that it is outside of the guidelines. There are no two-story garages abutting. There is a larger one that's a few houses down on the corner of the alley, but it's not two-story, it's just larger than the footprint. The reason we exceed the footprint of 450 is for the stairs on the back side, so we're not like egregiously over, we're just allowing for a staircase. The lot coverage was one of the things that was mentioned. Even if we come back with a 450 square foot garage, the lot coverage is going to be very minimally different than what it is now. It'll be simply just minus that stair on the backside. The reason we faced it forward towards the street and not the alley is for safety reasons. This alley lines up right to the park, where there are a lot of people that are coming down the alley all hours of the day and night. We felt like facing it forward kind of gave a little more security instead of having the garage open out to the alley. Last time we brought this application, or this garage, it had a side load entry, which was really the deciding factor that made it go to a continuance. And the previous owner was not willing to budge on that, so we never brought it back. So we listened then, and so a lot of the things that were concerns before have been alleviated. So we're not a true 1.5 story here, but we are a 5-foot plate instead of an 8 or 9. So we dropped it 3 or 4 feet. So that is everything I have to say about it right now.
Okay.
I'll let you guys.
Commission members, what questions do we have for the applicant?
Can you talk about the, little roof overhang above the garage door?
Yeah, so because it's a kind of 1.5 story, it's a weird massing. Like, it looks strange, and we could put a full height window in there, but we wanted the dormer to match what's on the front of the main house. It's the same condition. And so that's kind of the reason for it. And then we put those corbels on the side that match the main house as well. So we took design cues from the house, is really why.
Yeah, and so really just kind of there to also just hold space a little bit in that elevation.
Yeah.
Okay, because like we had a case come through once where like someone wanted something like that so they could like sit out in the rain and whittle or something, but be covered
Yeah.
like in that area as like a shop. So I didn't know if it was like, some use that they needed that for, but.
Just to break up the facade, really.
But we did deny him on that because that's not a typical of a historic garage.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling with that
Okay.
element a little bit, purely just because it is like for aesthetic reasons and not someone needs that overhang for whatever. But that was kind of my first thought, just because that is so visible.
Hey, commissioners, any other questions, concerns on this one? Let me ask, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak on this item?
I think we did have neighborhood comments.
There was
I
one.
believe they're in your packet.
Yeah, they just agreed with staff. They didn't have any specific remarks.
I mean, they want a denial with prejudice.
Feels a little strong
That felt
for
a
me.
little harsh. I will
did.
say
It
this. So, if we can't get there today, we are willing to come back with some changes because I think that what we had discussed previously was so much worse than this in terms of height and massing and everything. And so, there might still be some things we can do to kind of bring it down a little, but I feel like given the massing of the house, it's hardly visible from the street. The whole thing sits kind of low, so you don't even see, maybe the top half of it from the street because of the driveway going up. So I feel like it's appropriate. And then I'll also mention, which I know that this isn't really a concern for the commission, but I think it should be, is, we want people to invest in historic homes in these districts. We've got to have a little bit of leeway to allow them to modernize and, make for some modern amenities that make more sense. The two-story garage is really functional for this family as an in-law suite. They have parents that come and help, a couple weeks out of the month. It's not for rental or anything like that. It is for functionality. We've used that same argument before for a garage with an apartment above it, and we got it passed. So I feel like everything that we've sort of brought forward, even though it's not in the guidelines, I just feel like it's all sort of a valid argument. And this is a massive house, and I feel like it deserves a little bit larger garage.
How big is the house?
Do you know? 3,200 square feet now with the addition? $3,300. It's pretty large, yeah.
I mean, I'll agree that the garage feels pretty secondary to the size of the house. Like, it's not overwhelming. It's minimally visible from the street. I think I could probably get there. Just like one or two little design changes.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with your design comments, and I don't have a problem with two-story garages, especially when the main house is 2 stories and massive.
3.
Well, 3, there you go. Yeah, I mean, even 2. Again, it's us growing with the times and the needs, and costs are increasing and living is increasing, and I mean, it's just challenging. So having the need to have a mother-in-law suite, I get it. So I continue to encourage us to have opportunities to review the guidelines for consideration of these things. I think there is, because of the size of the house, the slope,
Yeah, the
minimally-
grading specifically
the grade,
is gonna make it feel
it's minimally
smaller.
visible. I don't have an issue with it, other than the design comments that you have.
What specifically would be your design comment? I know the shed roof, but do you have a suggestion?
My only other comment was on the elevation with the window. Is that west, or at least plan west? Just like on that gable end, that window just feels like really small proportionally to that elevation, in my opinion.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's a stairwell.
Especially when you look at that elevation next to the
Is it a-
house,
no,
which
that's a
does have
bathroom.
much
Okay.
larger windows, and I don't know what's going on in plan just looking at this elevation. But just proportionally to me, that feels just a little bit small, but
It looks like that's the bathroom.
It is, yeah.
is that the bathroom? Okay.
But we can certainly put a larger window in it for,
If it makes sense, but
Yeah.
yeah, just looking at it from the elevation, it just felt a little,
Did you say you had a concern with the little roof over the garage door part?
yeah. Just that's not something that's not a historic condition, and we've denied that condition in other cases that have come through,
How was
or
the lo-
similar conditions.
How was the lot coverage compared to what the previous garage was? Because that is a comment in here from,
Yeah.
it's
usually
about
I would be
the
prepared.
concern for flooding.
Okay, so our existing lot coverage is 59%, and our proposed lot coverage is 67. But again, even if it wasn't a two-story garage, it would be the same lot coverage.
Right.
Because we would just push the garage back to the property line, and there'd be more concrete in front of it.
Right.
So lot coverage, I don't feel like should be really a concern.
Okay.
One thing that's come up that usually comes up for us on garages, and I don't think we made note of it this time, but we've got one 2-car width garage door. I'm not sure do you know how wide the garage door is?
It's a 16-foot door.
And I don't know if
Why
the
did I say that
commission
with so much confidence?
cares about a 2-car width door versus 2 single garage doors. Sometimes that helps with
It
proportions.
does,
on
and
it.
that was something I'd actually discussed with the client, that you guys would typically want to see that. I will tell you, as someone who has a 2-door garage, I was just complaining about it this morning. If you look at my car, there are white scuff marks on one fender, and then we painted the garage blue, and now there are blue scuff marks on the other fender, and I have one mirror all torn up. Those doors suck. I don't know how to tell you this.
Yes. Well, having said that, looking at the site plan, more than half of the garage door is going to be tucked well behind the house, so you wouldn't really be able to tell that if it's one door versus 2 doors anyway from the street. So,
Well, and I think the style that you're illustrating in the elevation, it's not like a big dumb metal, like 4-panel thing, kind of could look like 2. So yeah, that being tucked away, I'm fine with.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions or comments for the applicant, or are we moving towards a motion on this item?
No comments.
So some of the comments that were made, like the roof over the garage door, maybe some of the massing, are you okay going back and revisiting that, or are you looking to push it through like it is now, or?
I would prefer to push it through like it is now, but
with some,
if we have to, we can come back.
Okay.
Because we will be back next month, actually, with more items on this. Well, the next month, actually, so.
So I think some concerns from the commission were that little roof overhang and the size of the window.
Yeah, and the reason for that, well, the window on the side is because it's in a bathroom. We can make that window bigger if it makes sense for the elevation. The reason that this shed roof is over here is it's kind of sitting right on top of the belly band that goes around to break up the side elevations. And then that dormer, we could just make the dormer not sit on top of the roof and then make that a taller window, so that would break up that front massing, but we did it specifically this way to mimic the front of the house because it has a dormer in the attic that sits on top of the roof line. So that was the reason for it. And then when you don't have that shed roof there with those corbels, it just looks like a weird facade that's just plain with a belly band over the door. So we added that to give it a little bit of visual interest and also to bring those corbels in to match the house as well.
I like the small roof, so I don't have a problem with it. I think it does break it up, and I think you would have a giant, massive wall. Yeah. Well, let's see what everybody else.
looking
It's
at
just one man's opinion.
looking at the dormer and you talking about having it sit on the roof versus coming all the way forward, we do have a lot of carriage houses that have that dormer that is flush, that the facade
Flush with the
continues
front
all the
wall.
way up, and the dormer that was probably like a hayloft is in that position. So if we continue it, if that's something you want to play with, you might look at some of those.
I'll let my client speak on this one.
Hello. My name is Eden Moore, and I currently live at 1305 North Hudson Avenue, and hopefully are going to live at 621 Northwest 18th Street soon. So as far as
Could
urgency...
you pull that mic just a little bit closer
Can you
to
hear
you?
me?
Yeah,
Hello?
thank you.
As far as urgency goes, I took on this project at a interesting time. It was gutted, as most of you know, and in pretty bad shape. It's been rained in for a couple years. And so urgency is kind of a necessity at this point. We have a shared drive, and my neighbor's half of the drive has some slope to it, and so they need some paving work done, and it really has to be done at the same time as we do pavement work. So I know that doesn't really matter to you all, but their sense of urgency as far as getting their pavement work done, and at the same time as ours, since it is a shared drive, they would like to see this, and so would I. Go through, as well as the fact that construction is framing is done and almost done, and we would like to be able to keep on moving down the road on this project that has lasted a few years. So that's my main thing as far as continuing and then not being able to get any type of approval until September. We did try and not have that little shed roof. I am an interior designer, and it was just too much of a space. And so I told Fallon, I was like, you got to add something. And then we do have those little corbels, the exact same corbels on the house. So we thought that was a good design element.
I think like visualizing it being gone does really like seem like it's going to look odd.
Yeah, I said no.
And now that I'm like moving back to from the street view, I wish you could see a little bit more of the garage, but it does look like it's very contextually compatible with the house.
Yes, yes.
So the more I look at it, the more comfortable I'm getting with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so we made sure that it really looked good with the design of the house. So yeah, I really hope that we can move forward with this garage and get it going. And I thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you.
I'll actually make a motion on HPCA-25-00069, item 1, construct new garage. For approval,
Unique circumstances.
well, my computer just exploded. I don't know what unique circumstance I need. I think it's compatible with the house, and I think the unique circumstances are the size and massing of the house plus the slope of the backyard. It would make it minimally visible from the street.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve with conditions. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve and a second. Commissioners, please cast your votes.
No, thank you.
That item has been approved. Thank you.
Let me see if I can.
Next up, we have HPCA-25-00070 at 425 Northwest 16th Street. Katie, talk to us about this project.
This is in Heritage Hills, Ward 6, consideration and possible action on application by Holly Hunt, HJH Design, for Melanie Reynolds for certificate of appropriateness to 1, demolish garage, elective, 2, construct new garage, elective, 3, replace 6-foot wood fence, elective, and 4, remove 6-foot brick wall, elective. I have to refresh my memory because we've had lots of garages here. This is the first time that this one has been before the commission. We do have information from the applicant on the condition of the garage, on the documenting their justification for the demolition. We've recommended approval of the replacing the fence, demolition of the garage. I think all other items we basically recommended a continuance for the commission's consideration. This is another garage that I believe is larger and taller than, or it's larger than what the guidelines support. It is a very close approximation of the historic garage, which is appreciated. It's a distinctive design, and they've very closely matched the roof form, window configuration, all those sorts of details. It's just somewhat of an increase in size, and then getting affirmation from the commission that demolition is warranted in the first place. And you do have comments from the neighborhood on this one as well.
Okay, thank you. The applicant's present.
Hello, Holly
And please,
Hunt.
yep, state your name and address again.
400 Northwest 23rd Street. Yes, so this house, or I'm sorry, this garage, our goal is to build it back exactly like it is. The homeowners love this garage. It's precious, but it is literally falling down. Like we see in a lot of these old carriage houses, there is no footing, there is nothing to support, especially the second floor. The staff report calls it a 1.5-story garage, but this is a 2-story garage. It doesn't meet the 1.5 criteria that we always talk about. It's a full height wall on that second floor. So this is a great view. If you could stay right there. I have no idea what's going on over here. It almost appears that at some time in its past, it was expanded up to its property line. In fact, it's over the property line, according to a survey that was done on this property. So, our hopes in rebuilding this is not to lose it at all. It's to keep it for another 100 years and to rebuild it. Currently on the back, I've submitted some pictures. I don't know if Keith has them, but the whole back wall of this garage is covered in ivy, and it is pulling the building to the east. I also had a picture of the inside that shows you that concrete slab where it's broken, not just cracked like we typically see. It actually has 2 points of failure where it has buckled entirely and broke the slab on both bays. The stairway that takes you to the upper floor is at a clean 15-degree angle. It is very off center or off square, and it's due to all these factors. The fact that it doesn't have the support that it needs. It was framed, not up to the existing building code standards. The spacing on the roof joist is beyond 16 inches, which isn't recommended. There's also only 2x4s on this roof. So there's a lot of things contributing to these failures. Certainly I can have my homeowners pay a structural engineer, but he is going to say the exact same things that you're seeing. I mean, you see that. Do you have any interior pictures, Keith? Have y'all seen the interior pictures?
There's pictures in our
They're,
packet.
they're in the,
Great.
they can get something
Okay,
from
so
their
then
computer.
you have been able to see those, and so then that's the demo. I'm hoping that we can move forward with the demolition. So for the proposed, there's just a couple of things I want to touch on before. The reason for the increase, if you look at that floor plan, there's actually only 498 in the 2-car garage area. The other 102 square feet are for the stair and a mechanical closet. Again, the stair is an existing interior stair. It says in the staff report it's outside. It's not. It's inside the garage. You walk through a side door, which is exactly, we're basically having that same configuration in the new construction as the original garage. It increases a total of 2 feet. And the reason for that is we are going to add 1 foot to the bottom floor to get 9 feet, and that's important just for structural to support the doors and to make sure that we get the appropriate headers in there. And then we'll still maintain the same height of the second floor as that is existing with an 8-foot plate. This is a gambrel style roof, so it's a little unusual when you talk about plate height. The plate height is set about halfway up the wall, and then it slopes at a steeper degree, or a lower slope to the ridge. Again, this is a great view of it. So our thinking in the new construction, it also says that the second floor is 715 square feet. I don't know where they're getting that number. The downstairs footprint is 600, so the upstairs will be 600 as well. If you were to, like the way we calculate square footage, you remove that area that's the stair. So actually the upstairs ends up being right at 560 square feet. And again, down 560 is the 5% lot number. So it's kind of that footprint that we were shooting for. Not a giant garage. It's very modest. Again, only 500 square feet of parking space on the main level. We only, and I'm sorry there's not dimensions on the proposed elevations, that's a mistake. I probably had it on the wrong layer. But we only increased the total height by 2 feet. So the final height will be 22 feet to the top of the ridge. And that has everything to do with, one, creating a stem wall foundation. So right now this is sitting on the dirt and actually sinking down into it. So it raises about 6 to 8 inches in order to provide that slab. And then again, just that increase at the first floor to allow for proper header heights. So happy to answer any questions. You know, yeah, that's enough.
Okay, commissioners, what questions do we have for the applicant? Okay, comments from citizens on this item?
Randy Ice with Heritage Hills.
And state your address.
Yes, 119 Northwest 19th Street, Old Heritage Hills.
Yep, thank you.
The point of this is, this house is individually listed on the National Historic Registry. So that means it's not just in Heritage Hills, it's one of a handful of houses that are nationally recognized as significant, not just to our neighborhood, but to the entire city and the entire country. All right, so we're very sensitive to demolition. That's our only problem here is demolition. And we would like to see some engineering reports at the very least, which the code does require in situations like this, because it's not immediately evident that it's going to fall down. And if at all possible, we'd like to see as much of this preserved as possible. I mean, this was all part of the application when this very historic house built by Mr. Clayton, well over 110 years ago, was put up. And I'm not sure if this was originally for carriages and horses, or if it was for cars. But we feel like anytime you have something that is individually recognized, in addition to being in the historic district, the commission has a heightened place in terms of reviewing these things and following not just the letter of the law, but also the spirit of the entire National Register listing, which is designed to preserve our cultural heritage. So again, we're very sensitive to this. We don't have any problem if the garage is gone, putting up another 2-story garage. The fence is not a problem. Even the brick walls can easily be replaced and often are. But the actual demolition of something that for almost 50 years has been on the National Registry concerns us greatly, because when you buy a house in Heritage Hills, you have a certain amount of responsibility. But when you buy a house that's on the National Register itself, you have a much higher responsibility to our city, our state, and our nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask really quick, Randy, the house or the property is on the register? Okay, was curious. Thank you, sir. No, we agree. It's a great, I do believe it was a carriage house, likely because you can tell that slab was kind of poured in place later. It could have just had a dirt floor in its distant past. Again, there's just a lot of problems with this structure. If we could keep it, we absolutely would. If we need to get a structural engineer to prove it, that we can certainly do that.
Katie, is there a process if it's listed on the National Register, like for that?
There's nothing in our ordinance that distinguishes between different National Register status. And that's information for the commission to take into consideration. I'm actually not finding anything that shows that it's individually listed. I'm not familiar with, the Overholser Mansion is individually listed, the Hefner Mansion is individually listed. That doesn't mean that it's not. I'm just not familiar with this one being one of the ones that's individually listed separate from the Heritage Hills nomination. So I'm looking for that.
And I would just say that the current homeowners that I'm representing, they did just purchase this property. They have not let this building fall into disrepair. They inherited this.
Holly, I think, it's really great when we see like the garages do have kind of a distinct life cycle, and it is a really good opportunity when somebody's willing to do the right things and rebuild with all the right materials and all that, and I'm definitely supportive of that. But reading through the findings on, what is required for a demo, I do think it would be best practice for us to get some more information. I can't imagine anybody not supporting the way y'all are proposing rebuilding it. I mean, it's really high quality and it's a great standard. But I think probably we need to see some further documentation on
I mean, the staff
justifying the
report
demo.
does mention that to rehabilitate this, many, or if not all, the historic
Yeah,
fabric
but
would
if
be
you go through all of these,
lost.
let's see, these.
But we can prove that it's a safety hazard. I mean, there's
Yeah, it's just not
there's
meeting one of
gaps in the
these
walls, like
with-
it's splitting apart. That CMU wall is tilting to the east, and it's separated.
I believe
that
you.
corner.
I just, you know.
Oh, I'm just
Yeah.
rehashing because I hadn't gotten deep into the condition, but beyond all of those things, you know, even the siding, the ivy that's growing on it, you know, likely nothing would be salvaged.
Yeah, I mean, it is a requirement to have that engineer report, but also we know you can go and get any engineer to say that it
Yeah.
needs it. So it's kind of.
Well, I'll call John Joyce right now. He's on the
I mean, I
Crown
think
Heights.
one
I just think we need to meet at least one of these. Like
I
there are several
understand.
things.
I completely understand.
It can be
I
any of
mean,
them.
We have done some demos lately that didn't require a structural engineering report, so if we could get it done without, you know, I was going to save my clients that money, but I completely
Well, there's
understand.
a
It's
lot
an
of
important
options in here.
garage, for sure.
I mean, there are other options in this listed in, you know, what you are allowed to provide to us to show us that it is something that needs to be demoed. So if you want to save them the money, I mean, there are other things that you can pursue here. I just think for this commission, we need at least one of those satisfied. Yes.
Okay.
Got
And
another
you
one.
did see the report from the GC, from
Yes.
Dream Construction? Okay, because, I mean, that
I think
they
it's
are
a little bit of a
experts.
conflict since he would be profiting off building a new garage. So I think
Oh,
it'd be
you
better
believe
if
it's a
we could
conflict?
see, you know, something else. But I think Randy's got some more comments.
Okay. Anyone else?
If you
Oh,
don't.
I'm so sorry.
I was just going to say, no problem. I was just going to say the neighborhood is interested in, obviously, in preserving what we can. I think it's pretty obvious that you can get a demolition or engineer to say this thing is in bad shape, because I saw the pictures. It's in bad shape. We have no dispute with that. The question is, can some parts of the historic fabric be saved? Could they perhaps reuse the windows? Could they perhaps reuse some other features on the outside of the garage and at least preserve as much as we possibly can? We would be very happy with that because I think this is going to go down. I don't think there's much doubt given looking at the pictures. But if there's something that we can come out, you know, look at the features on that. There's all kinds of interesting features on this garage. If we could preserve some of that and salvage it, and I know they're trying to replicate it to the extent possible, but you know, sometimes you can actually take out old windows and you can take out certain architectural features and put them back on the building you're putting in.
I think that's an idea worth pursuing for sure if you guys are open to it. I know your clients aren't here today, but
I think you,
Well,
I think you can do that. I understand your point of that, but when you have a new building and you're putting old windows like that in it, it kind of doesn't serve the purpose of building a new. I mean, if I built a new
And beyond that.
addition and put an old rickety window in it, I would have a problem building the new addition.
well, but arguably, I mean, if those windows are in good shape, they are probably going to be a better product than a new wood window. I mean, they're just made with better quality wood. If they're in good, I mean, I haven't gone up there and opened those windows, but.
Yeah, the windows is in all the windows are in just as bad a shape as the rest of the structure, as you can imagine. But again, if we need to show more proof of that, it's certainly, you know, something I can provide along with the structural report. But I tend to agree with Commissioner Gaines, especially given that these new windows, we can do aluminum clad, which prevents the need for storm windows, which, you know, tightens up these homes, and it just helps them to, again, go into the future another century.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool building. It'd be great if it could be replicated with the ivy. I'm not sure what this train car thing is in the back, but
It's in the neighbor's yard. We have no idea why it's there.
I wondered if anybody's going to
It
address
made it
that. Can we
very
talk about this bunker that's in this
the elephant in the room.
They were on the consent docket, actually, so you would have had to pull it. Well, it sounds like we're continuing this for more evidence for the demo anyway. So do we just want to start there?
Ollie, do you think, as far as getting a structural engineer's report. Do you think that that's something you can do for?
We're gonna have to go 2 months, guys, yeah. Or not 2 months, not next month's meeting, but the following.
Right.
September 3rd.
September 3rd.
September.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, what day is it? No.
Well, then I will make a motion to continue HPCA 25-00070 to the September commission meeting.
Okay, we've got a motion to continue the September 3rd commission hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
We've got a second. Commissioners, please cast your vote. That has been continued to the September 3rd commission hearing. Thank you, Holly. Okay, last up, we've got HPCA-25-00074 at 1715 North Hudson Avenue. Katie, tell us about this project.
Yeah, this is in Heritage Hills, Ward 6, consideration and possible action on application by Brent Wall, Laud Studio for Christopher White for certificate of appropriateness to 1, remove stone steps on east side, elective, 2, add stone steps on west side, elective, 3, construct flagstone seating area, elective, 4, install concrete edging, elective, 5, modify steel fence and gate, elective, 6, remove concrete walkway, elective, 7, construct pool, and 8, replace porch tile, elective. This is a project that the commission saw and approved previously that has since expired and has come back with some minor modifications. We have recommended approval of all items, just with the condition that additional information regarding screening for mechanical equipment be provided.
Katie, thank you. I see the applicant is present.
Yes. Hi, I'm Jessica Lerner. I'm a landscape architect with Laud Studio.
Okay, and your address?
The property address or mine?
Yours.
Your address, yeah.
3711 North McKinley.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, what comments on this project do you have for us?
As was mentioned, this came up a little over a year ago, and now that the family has lived in the space and gotten to know it a bit, they would like to make a couple of changes. One of the things mentioned was screening for the mechanical units. They're currently right outside a very visible window from inside the home, so they would like to relocate those. We have some decorative steel fencing in front of those currently, and it is open, so as far as more screening for those go, if a mesh backing would be acceptable, that would be the preferred route so we can keep in the same materiality. And then if there were questions on any of the other items, I'm happy to address those as well, but that's the.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, what questions do we have?
I don't have any.
Yeah, Katie, were you on the mechanical equipment? I mean, they're showing, decorative steel fencing, but yours says that the report says that it should be screened from view. Like, was there a separate issue with it?
So I'm going to let Daryl speak to this. He worked on this one. Yeah.
So the fence is see-through, so you can see the mechanical equipment. I suggested landscaping, so that's the preferred screening material according to the guidelines. But mechanical equipment, according to the guidelines, has to be screened. It's currently not screened, and it's not proposed to be appropriately screened.
So those guidelines, like, is there a minimum openness? I mean, I know you said landscape is preferred, but if they wanted to do...
Like 75% transparent or something.
Right, like, do they need pickets closer together? Does, what is that?
So screening just means that it's screened from view from the public right of way.
Right.
So there's no measures for opaqueness or things like that.
It's not
That's for
considered
fence.
fencing.
Yeah.
If it's using the same materials, it's not fencing.
So that would still be fencing. If they're using fencing as screening, it's a fence no matter what.
That is what y'all are using, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's in the plan now currently.
Because then it would follow that, like, whatever, 25% transparency or something.
So hold on, let me find the actual language here. Because I think the intent is that it is fully screened, that there's no transparency. It's not our transparent fence has percentages. It's all about concrete sidewalks, driveways. But yeah, the preference would be, like, if they're in places where we have a wrought iron style fence, we would say plant landscaping that's going to grow to a thickness and opacity that you cannot see the mechanical equipment through it.
And
But using landscaping is still a big risk because we all know it dies, it disappears, it gets cut back because it gets overgrown into the mechanical equipment.
Dies during winter.
Yeah, I actually prefer this.
Like, I mean, it's not a guaranteed solution to fully screen. So I don't know. I actually think maybe, I mean, if you're a fence or something, or I mean, and I don't care if it has a little bit of opaqueness. Sometimes I think intentionally completely hiding things makes it more obvious.
Yeah.
Well, and especially, I mean, where this is, I would be more in favor of something that's not landscaping, just because it's in an extremely visible location. So.
And there's a historic wall right next to that space, so our concern was that landscaping would hide that wall and be an awkward, partially cover that as it grew. And so that was our idea, to stick with the fencing that would maintain a consistent size.
And staff has recommended approval on all of this.
I think we've got enough direction here talking about the screening that we could go ahead with an approval with that condition that screening be submitted to staff to be included with release of the CA, and we can work with the applicant a little more on exactly what that screening is. And we can, if we can't come to an agreement, we can always bring that back, and all these other items can continue to move forward.
Yeah, I feel like there could be some kind of happy medium there where it's still the same fence, but maybe like the pickets are a little bit closer together. So you'll have more of them, still match the same style, but might give you not as much openness.
I think the motivation though was probably to reuse what you had, right? Like if you were using this type of thing.
Well, I mean, they have to kind of realign the fence anyway. Okay. So if they needed to add more pickets, that's not a
So
bad
it sounds
thing.
like we could motion for an approval with an agreed upon condition that they'll submit materials for the screening.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Let me ask, are there any
Sorry.
members of the public that wish to speak on this item?
We have a staff person that does.
Yep.
So as far as municipal code and building code and site coverage and that sort of thing is all concerned, we have a definition for landscape screening. And very typically when a fence of this nature becomes involved with mechanical equipment and that sort of thing, I work with the applicant towards evergreen material that is of a height and a width that already currently screens. Is the discussion suggesting that that is not sufficient?
I think the discussion is suggesting that we would be comfortable with something that's not landscaping. Not necessarily that landscaping isn't sufficient, but that we don't necessarily think it's preferred or the only preferred item.
Thank you.
Hey, Commissioners.
At least that's my interpretation of the discussion.
An agreement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we have a motion on these items?
I would motion to approve HPCA 25-00074 with the specific findings noted in the staff report and the agreed upon condition that the applicant work with staff to determine an appropriate screening material for the mechanical.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve with the condition. Do we have a second? Oh, I'm sorry, we do have a second. Here we go, here we go.
Have it.
There we go.
Go for it, Molly.
Okay, Commissioners, please cast your vote. Okay, those items have been approved.
I think y'all are okay on the
Okay, that brings us to an end for cases for individual consideration. We've got no other business, communications and reports, administrative approvals.
Lots of AAs. Feel free to reach out to staff if you see anything there that you'd like more information about. No administrative closings or withdrawals to announce. I did want to note that the SPUD in Paseo that you all heard previously went to Planning Commission and was introduced at City Council this week. It'll have a final hearing July 29th. And Council did also approve the revision to application fees, so those will take effect July 18th. Board of Adjustment, an appeal has been filed on the denial of the garage at 442 Northwest 20th. That's HPCA 25-61, and that'll be heard August 7th as of right now. And then just for your information, there's another case going to Board of Adjustment that regards a variance for a billboard that is within a certain distance of a historic district. It's outside the district, so it doesn't come to us. It's just a mathematical calculation of how close they are to the boundary of the district. That's why you all haven't seen it. It's not our purview. But there's HP-related stuff on that agenda, so I think it caught some people's attention.
Where is the billboard?
It is at Byron's. So that's all that I have from all those other bodies.
Okay, got it. Where am I at now?
Municipal council.
Okay, anything from office? Okay, thank you. Next meeting date, the next regularly scheduled meeting for the Historic Preservation Commission is Wednesday, August 6th at 2 p.m. at the Municipal Building, City Council Chamber. New applications for this meeting were received by July 1st. New information on projects continuing from today's meeting to the upcoming meeting must be submitted to staff by 4 p.m. Tuesday, July 8th. The next workshop for the Historic Preservation Commission is Tuesday, July 22nd from 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. And please note the new time. This is going to be a morning workshop, correct?
Bring your coffee, bring your snacks.
8:30 a.m. to 11 in the large personal basement conference room at 420 West Main. Do we have any items from commissioners? Any remaining citizens to be heard? I'm going to guess there are none.
And I'll say one more time that that is a different location as well than our usual location. That is in the basement of our building where city staff offices are. So we'll have somebody there to direct you downstairs.
And a large personnel basement.
Personnel basement.
There's a lot of ends there.
In the personal basement.
There's a lot, not the small personal basement, yeah. No. Okay. Oh, goodness. Okay, no other items. We will adjourn at 3:46. Thank you.